Let's work. Yo,
Welcome to Kettlebell Resilience. This is the prep course 1. In the first block of your kettlebell training to pass a certification, you need to make sure that you get strong enough. That then allows you to condition your body well enough to pass our tests. This is prep course 1. Here we go. The first thing we need to actualize here is to understand what is your focus. I'm going to put the focus into perspective. You want to pass this kettlebell certification. But recognize this type of thought process, you could pick any goal under the sun. We first focus. Next, you prioritize. If you have a goal, and right now, again, we will choose our kettlebell certification as our goal. You need to prioritize what do we need to do first and foremost that allows us success along this journey. Now, each one of us is different in how we come to this. Some of us are more conditioned. Some of us are stronger. Maybe our hinge strength is stronger than our squat strength, or maybe we're not good with the pull-up. We all have our deficits. I want to first help you identify your deficits so we can address them as priority 1 in our training, and then we can move on with a good journey that's both safe and ends in a great performance at the Kettlebell Resilience certification. The next step is the schedule. Your schedule highlights what your priority is. When you set your first and second and third priority, then the schedule follows suit. Okay? Here, my simple guidelines are when it comes to scheduling and programming, you need to hit your priority exercises most often throughout the week. But without that top priority, you will lose sight of what's truly important. If you have a body that doesn't rotate very well, and you only do that once a week with a rotation practice, you will not achieve elite performance with the kettlebell certification. In fact, you might stumble upon injuries. So it's critical that you lay out your priorities and schedule accordingly. Next, innovate. So I got these steps from Michael Gerber, as they say. Michael Gerber was one of the key authors of trying to understand business practice, but we're applying this to your training practice. Innovate. Innovate means what is the best way of doing the activity? I'm going to present to you a lot of exercises and the how-to drills so that you understand what is the best and safest way of achieving an elite kettlebell practice. Last is communicate. Now, for many of you, you might be trying to do this training on your own. But in reality, it takes a team to do extraordinary things. Most athletes have a sport coach, have a mental coach, have a strength and conditioning coach. They have their medical coach or medical clinician. Maybe it's a doctor, chiropractor, physical therapist, clinician. It takes a team to achieve elite performance. I recommend that for your own practice, you find people who are more schooled than you in the things that you don't know yet. That might mean getting a clinician involved with any prior injuries. That might mean hiring a sport coach that's trained in this way to help look at your film, look at your technique. We can help you with coaching through this process, but you need to make sure that someone's eyes are on you for elite practice. These steps will help achieve success through this journey. Now, this journey floats next into our standards. What is our kettlebell certification all about? So again, going back to finding your focus, what are your goals? Well, we lay out the goals for the kettlebell certification, and it's based on your gender, on your age, and on your weight. We structure like this to create a degree of fairness across all body types and age. So if you look, we have the strength bell. The strength bell is defined by what is the bell you will be utilizing to demonstrate appropriate skill for all the main skill sets of our kettlebell certification. So it ranges from a 12 kilogram bell all the way up to a 28 kilogram bell to perform our strength skills. Now, one of the key parts to all this is understanding that your conditioning bell is most likely a little bit heavier than your strength bell. So for women, your conditioning bell is the strength bell for a 1-star rating. The second and third star rating are 4 and 8 kilograms above that bell size. When it comes to conditioning, the conditioning test is simple. It's swings and get-ups. I will go into that test in a bit. But right now, recognize the strength bell, you have to perform all the skills that I'll lay out. And the conditioning bell, you will need to do swings and get-ups. That will be timed, and we'll be looking very closely at your heart rate to see if you pass the test. And that bell is dependent on what rating you want to achieve. For men, it starts off with 4 kilograms north of your strength bell. We expect your kettlebell swing and your kettlebell get-up to be stronger than your press, to be stronger than your double squat, double kettlebell squat. So that expectation is there because we choose get-ups and swings because they're very powerful moves. And to see how well you've conditioned your body, we start with 4 kilograms up for the men. We have a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star rating, the same for the ladies, but again, it starts with the strength bell plus 4. We started the men a little bit heavier, largely because men anatomically have more structure around their shoulders. Because we have more mass in the shoulder girdle and more mass through the forearm and grip tissue, we have that one ranking up. That's an anatomical difference. It is what it is. Let's go over the skill sets. I label it in this way for a key reason. Swings and snatches are sisters. Just one sister is a lot more badass than the other. We have swings, then snatches. Look at swings as a demonstration of hip power. If you go two-hand with the swing, it's purely hip power. If you go a single arm swing, it puts a component of grip strength as well as your core stability because that unilateral load will want to rotate you. To anti-rotate and support that, it takes a very strong core system. So two-handed swings, single arm swings are bread and butter for this program. That's why we test it in the conditioning test. But our skill set will also employ a snatch. The snatch is an extension of the swing. It just has a lot more threat to the arm. So you have to stabilize that snatch overhead. But with a strong swing, you have a safe snatch. And we're going to stress that above and all. Next is the squat. For the kettlebell squat, we will be looking at the starting point of a goblet squat, and then you will progress to a single arm front squat, and finally a double kettlebell racked front squat. The double kettlebell rack front squat will utilize a strength bell in each arm, and that will be the test for your squat portion of the skill. The next skill is the press. The press is a strict military press. To be able to do this safely takes a lot of practice and takes a lot of stability through your trunk and shoulder girdle. We will also be working with the push press. It will not be tested, but it is an extension of the military press. And frankly, I use push presses a lot more in my own practice and for the athletes and clients and patients that I have because frankly, it's a lot easier to teach, and I like getting the best bang for your buck from any exercise. So I do use strict military press in my own practice and for teaching of exercises to patients and clients, but I use the push press more so, and we will talk about that at length in the push press portion of this course. The next one is the Turkish get-up. The get-up is one of the oldest exercises known. It's been done with a kettlebell for hundreds of years. And put it simply, it is the way of lying on your back, pushing weight up, and then being able to stand up with that weight overhead. It can be insanely strong, not thanks to any one muscle, but total body stability. This is not a shoulder exercise, nor is it a hip exercise, nor is it a spine exercise. It is a total body exercise. And even in practicing get-ups for the last decade or two, I have seen my strength improve, but no one muscle gets big. It's a representation of total body stability. How well can you put everything together in one movement? So that is our total body stability move. Okay, the next exercise is your pull-up. Now you might think, why are we doing pull-ups for a Kettlebell Resilience course? It is because we need some test of this to achieve balance. My next portion here will talk about strength benchmarks. And if we don't have a strong pull, it's very hard to have a safe push. So we're trying to achieve balance with the body with this certification. Subsequently, we need to bring in pulling. Now, it can be argued that a single arm kettlebell swing has an immense pull to it, but we added the vertical pull to achieve a little more symmetry through the body. So we'll be looking at a pull-up, and if you reference the prior slide that looks at the chart, how many pull-ups you have is dependent, again, on your age, gender, and weight. The last portion of this are our stability variations. These include our arm bars, our windmills, and to some degree, if you want to really challenge yourself, the bent press. But we have an assortment of carries as well between a suitcase, a rack, and an overhead carry. And we utilize these stability variations to augment our training, whether it's an activation exercise or it's more of a finishing exercise to create local fatigue around that tissue. When we have a segment of your body that's a little bit more unstable, typically the shoulder or the spine, we can attack that stability with more vigor by using our stability variations that we will go over in this course as well. So although these won't be tested, they are absolutely critical to implement in your journey. Okay, so with this course, the beginning of this course for some of you might take 6 months to go through this journey. For some, it might take 2 years to go through this journey. The height of this pyramid is completely dependent on your foundation. If we're working with someone, if you're starting on this kettlebell journey and you have a wide base, and what that includes is great nutrition, great sleep, great lifestyle factors that allow your body to heal and regenerate really well. Maybe you have great DNA on board. You're built strong. Maybe your parents were uber conditioning athletes and you have a phenomenal degree of heart health. Whatever the attributes you have that allow for a wide base, and our life factor of this pyramid allows for a higher peak. So recognize some people need to do a lot more basic training work to achieve a high peak. Some of you come to this kettlebell certification with already a wide base and you're able to get to work. So the length of this program might be 2 to 3 months for some people and might be 2 to 3 years for others. Recognize it's dependent on the width of your lowest base, which is your lifestyle factors, as well as the width of your movement base. And that's what we're going to go into next. The movement base is critical to understand the bulletproof continuum. And if you've joined us with our prior education series on the bulletproof continuum, then you know this at an elite level, but we need to talk about it now. It's so critical to enter into a performance certification such as this. You need to make sure you don't have any weak links in the body. If you have areas of your body that are unstable, old injuries, old trauma, or you have areas of your body that's tight, maybe your active straight leg raise is subpar, maybe you can't bend backwards very well through your spine. If you have areas of your body that do not move well, and you try and train aggressively for this course, you will find injury, you will find problems. So it's critical you understand the bulletproof continuum so that you then can attack your dysfunctions. In this continuum, we set motion and stability on the left. On the left part are things to attack first, making sure you have the motion requirements and the stability requirements to achieve safe strength. Once you can achieve safe strength, you then need to achieve elite level strength so that when you condition with speed and power activity, you have a wide base to pull from. Simply put, if I try and do a lot of swings and snatches with a 24 kilo bell, and I can barely muster up a 28 kilo bell with a double hand swing and a get up, I'm going to run into injuries. The wider your strength base, the easier it is to condition with bells beneath your strength base. So it's critical to get strong. And we look at swings and get-ups because they're very powerful movement patterns when it comes to utilizing your full body. The hips are the most powerful pattern generators of our whole body. And so the swing should be quite strong. And when we have strong deadlift strength, when we have strong hinging strength and we have strong core strength, it allows us to really work on the speed and power parts of this continuum at an elite level. And when I do that, then I can condition quite well with a program that won't hurt me. And then I pass the certification without injury. The process of this is smart programming and smart identification of your own issues so that you address it early in the journey, and that will allow a safe journey through this. Okay, the continuum gets pretty detailed. So if you've gone through our Bulletproof course, you know this. If you haven't, then I will see you at our next live event. We have our Bulletproof Continuum course on a digital platform. We also have it as a live event, and I implore you to go through that process. But here is the quick and dirty version of it. If we look at these tests, I outline all the tests on the left. We should be able to pass these tests as we make our way through the continuum. If you look at the upper portion of that, this is for the shoulder. The shoulder, we should be able to have combined motion with the arm, which looks at internal rotation and external rotation. We should be able to rotate through the spine, and we should be able to do a fluid rolling pattern back and forth on the floor. When we do that, we have appropriate movement through our upper quarter to then attack more elite level strength in the upper quarter. When we have appropriate stability through that upper segment, that upper quarter, we then can also attack strength, speed, and power safely. The stability drills would be our planking series and our W holds and our baseline strength measures of doing a stability push-up, as well as being able to pull with our body weight. When we're able to attack our stability interventions and our baseline strength interventions, it allows us to achieve a good program safely. So we have our tests on the left, and if you're able to pass the test with flying colors, wonderful. You can program insanely well and get to work. But if you can't pass our tests here, then I implore you to spend time of addressing your dysfunctions from a movement standpoint and a stability standpoint so that you can attack strength safely. For this particular guide, it's the shoulder guide. Please reference the resources that we have to clearly identify these tests, and we'll show you these tests in our Bulletproof Continuum course structure. Next would be the knee intervention. The knee is critical to look at both the ankle, how well the knee moves, and how well the hip moves. That understands the joint health. Understanding the fascial line health is looking at the active straight leg raise and then how well your heel gets to your butt. When we look at those movement requirements, if you have issues with those tests, again, you need to address those before you start doing a lot of squats and swings and Turkish get-ups, or else you will find knee issues, hip issues, and back issues, unfortunately, as well. In the same paradigm, we have our stability interventions between our lunge hold and our T hold, and allowing us to get into a deep squat safely to then go into our more advanced strength programming. Again, on the left, these are our bulletproof test requirements, and we will share resource guides for what these requirements are. If you want a more detailed analysis of the knee intervention, you then need to go into our Bulletproof course or our digital platform to see how well do you make the grade with those movement tests and stability tests for safe strength programming. As you can understand, our spine version is a little more complicated than the upper extremity and the lower extremity. The spine puts together everything. How well can we control flexion? How well can we control extension? How good do our hips move? How well does our thoracic spine rotate? And then again, the stability measures between our planking and how well we're able to brace through the backside, the front side, and the lateral side of our core. Recognizing our movement requirements and our stability requirements are absolutely critical for elite programming safely. I keep using that word because if you're trying to program swings and get-ups or squats and pressing in a high volume, high ballistic, high strength mindset and a high patterning and high volume, with given dysfunctions that you see on the left. If you're unable to do any of the patterns that you see on the left, you will find issues. It's just a matter of time. A lot of times we can rely on our youth to help us through some dysfunctions and still push past. But I will tell you, even for the young that have wide disc heights and plenty of cartilage and no tears in their tendon yet, even with a young body, if you train hard with these given dysfunctions, you will tend to find problems. And to pass this kettlebell certification, you will need to put a fair amount of volume on your body. To do that safely, we implore you to make sure you pass our bulletproof requirements. Again, this is not a course diving into that. You need to go into a separate course or reference our resources to make sure you pass these tests. Okay, strength benchmarks. Trusting that you move well enough, trusting that you are stable enough and are able to pass our bulletproof tests, that then allows you to achieve some elite level strength programming. I put phases here and columns here on purpose. So if you see that I separate out in men and women, and if you see the columns, we look at your push strength and pull strength with the upper extremity. Then you have the push strength and pull strength with the lower extremity, otherwise called hinging and squatting. And then we have a column more or less that's called total body stability. And then 4 levels on the left. I give you examples. This isn't a perfect progression, but it gives you a mindset to achieve balance with your strength as you advance in your levels. So you read my tip on the bottom. Progress all categories to the same level before attempting to go down another level. We tend to do strength training with patterns that we like. For a lot of men, they like pushing things up, but sometimes we don't like pulling. For a lot of women, they really might like squatting. Maybe their hips are really, really good and they're able to get into a deep squat and hey, this is fun. But whenever we do hinge strength, our back hurts and vice versa for men and women. And the key thing is we tend to not to program the things that either bug us or we dislike. If we have an issue, if you have repeat pain or repeat issues or your body doesn't really like that pattern, we need to ask why. What are the movement requirements and stability requirements to do elite strength programming safely? So what I ask of you is before you get insanely strong in the row, in the column that you most enjoy, make sure you have balanced strength everywhere. And that allows you to progress down your strength patterns in a safe way. Because frankly, if you try and build a massive squat, a very strong squat, on a body that can't hinge very well, we're going to have issues. Say every time you hinge, your back hurts, but you notice if you squat, your back doesn't hurt. So you do a lot more squats than hinging. Well, what that sign of back pain is perhaps poor core stability. And when you try and squat heavier and heavier and heavier, we might find a severe back injury along the way because you didn't address it with a proper hinge progression. Because a hinge progression will strengthen your backside more so than anything else. So I implore you to try and achieve balance. Now, for some of you that have severe injuries or arthritis or deep instability injuries that make some of these just frankly too difficult, we have alternative paths. You can still get strong with the press without doing a lot of military press. You can still get strong with your total body stability without doing get-ups. And that's why I showed that there is a carry substitute for the total body stability. But we can be a little creative in how we incorporate balanced strength by wanting to appreciate the principles behind these strength benchmarks rather than the exact details of it. So look at this, program yourself, and look at how balanced is your strength. Measure yourself along this chart and see, are you at a level 4 with 2 of them, but maybe only a level 2 with the other 2? And then how does your programming reflect that? Because I'll tell you, the hard part about doing the conditioning test is you need everything from your knee strength to your hip strength to your core stability to your upper extremity strength, and you need stamina throughout, and particularly your heart to be able to pass the test safely and not feel like absolute death on testing day. So it's critical in this first phase to achieve some balance with your strength patterns. Next, let's go through the skill sets. So again, why are we doing swings? We're doing swings for hip power and core stability. That's it. When you do that at an elite level, good things tend to happen. I've always appreciated the idea of a strong proximal stability. Proximal stability would be the tissue through your mid-back, through your front trunk, and your hips. That triangle of movement right there is the core of how our body moves. Said in the opposite way, I don't really trust a body with thighs that are stronger than the butt, or with arms and guns that are stronger than the mid-back. When we have distal strength away from our body, we tend to find injuries. We overpower our system, and things tend to fall apart, whether it's rotator cuff tears or blown discs in the spine. So to achieve elite level strength, I want it in that triangle, in the center of our body, first and foremost. And the swing helps us do that. Now, we have a lot of regressions to the swing that we'll go over at length in the swing video. But it includes learning how to hinge correctly, as well as doing bridges and planks and tall kneeling patterns to help the practitioner understand how to hinge with a neutral spine, how to hinge with a strong core, and making sure that our legs are positioned correctly so that we don't overpower the hinge with maybe dominant thighs. A lot of people tend to squat the hinge or squat the swing. And it's critical to achieve that proximal stability force that is stronger than the thigh. And that's a key part to this. So patterning the hinge is critical. So I want you to see our reprograms that help the practitioner learn how to hinge well. And then we have our technical drills that we go over in our video series that you'll see that include the towel swing and the backboard element of being able to push back. Those technical aspects are really nice to learn the technical skill of good, safe swings and snatches. So we go over that in our swing video. Next is the squat. So again, like we talked about, it is the double kettlebell squat that we will use for testing, but it's critical to do single arm front squats for core stability. You'll find that a heavy single arm front squat is quite difficult. It can be more difficult than even a double kettlebell racked, largely because it attacks your core stability with that rotary force. So we will use the squat variations, and don't forget that to be able to squat effectively takes you to be able to swing it really well. I'll tell you, cleaning a heavy bell out of all the drills, has a component of fear that's really fun. It really gets you excited because if you don't do it well, you'll tend to drop it right back down. So there's a lot to be said for a strong and heavy clean, but we'll utilize all the skills with the double kettlebell squat, a single kettlebell front squat, as well as cleans to help augment how strong our rooting is and how strong our squat function is. Just like before, we have our regressions and reprograms to help you understand how to do the drill from a movement standpoint. A lot of people have a hard time squatting with their legs in the right position. A lot of people have a hard time getting the full depth with the squat. So we have our reprograms to address those dysfunctions. And then we have our coaching cues that you'll see again in our squat coaching video. Next is the press. And I put the push press in here just like I said before. With the same part of this is a vertical strength position. We will be testing a single kettlebell strict military press, largely because double is a little too sharp of a sword. We find that if we do a lot of this, most people tend to have issues in their neck and they have issues in their shoulder. I want to attack this Kettlebell Resilience certification with safety at the forefront. So in reality, unless you're dealing with a very young and supple body, a double kettlebell position is very, very hard to do effectively and safely every time. You can use it for training practice, but recognize this is one of the hardest positions of the human body, both for the back, the shoulder, and the neck. So we will do a single arm version. Frankly, it's a lot safer. We will also be discussing the push press version of that, which you can use as a training tool as well. Just like before, we have our reprograms to help a strong press. I will emphasize one key reprogram that I love the most, and it's the overhead carry. You should always be working on a stronger overhead carry than what you can press. If you're trying to press 20 kilos overhead and you're not working overhead carries with a 20 kilo or a 24 kilo, in fact, then you're not showing your body the strength that it needs, the stability that it needs to handle that pattern. Said another way, if I can't stabilize 24 kilos over my head, there is no shot I'm going to dynamically move 20 safely. We should always be able to carry more than we can press. And you might ask, well, how am I going to get it overhead? And that's why we do push press. And that's why we can do 2 arms overhead and then anchor it. But I love that reprogram more than anything else. You will hear that in our press video series. Just like before, we have our progressions and our coaching tips to help understand the technical aspects of the lift. The pull-up. Well, this one's quite simple. A lot of people like changing the grip between chin, neutral, and a pronated grip. We will be testing it in tactical style with a pronated grip. Sorry, Tony. We will be testing it with a pronated grip, just like so. But you can work on strength programming in a neutral grip or a chin pull, but recognize this position is different from a shoulder standpoint than here, and that's a lot different than here. It takes unique musculature to be able to do it all. I like it all, but we will be testing with the pronated grip. Last on this is the total body stability. It is the get-up. The get-up is like 7 exercises wrapped into one. We have many steps to the get-up. These are detailed. We are very detailed and technical when it comes to this lift because it gives you a safe lift. Now, there are some hips and some spines and some shoulders that can't manage the full technical proficiency here. If you have an issue, we have regressions. In our get-up video, we have regressions for more of a tactical use. We have regressions for people with less range of motion in their hip. But to be frank, if you can't get your arm overhead with an overhead carry, we can't get it in a safe position, then testing the get-up is going to be very difficult for you. So that you need to see your medical practitioner to address to see what type of issues you have in your shoulder that might not allow you to go overhead because the get-up requires it. We can still do some good healthy training with get-up variations, but as far as passing the Kettlebell Resilience test, if you can't get overhead, we got issues. Strength programming. So we just went through all of the drills that you'll be tested on and the drills that we will go over in our video series. Strength programming is absolutely critical to know and understand, and it needs to be customized to you. Your somatotype, your training history, how proficient you are with the skill, what are your time allotments for your own training, all factor in as to how to program yourself. There's no way I could give you a program that'll work for you without understanding all of the components. Now, part of this process is to see how well can you program yourself. I would fully support you double check that with a person that is more advanced than you in this niche category. Find a kettlebell instructor, communicate to us directly, find someone to look at your program and see, is this being done according to your priority list and according to your training history. But I'll give you some pearls to help along this process. Strength. I will define strength with how well you recruit. To do elite level strength training, you need to recruit maximally as best as you can and push that weight as best as you can. So when we think about strength training, we are thinking about increasing that load over time. To do that, you need to work rather high up on your percent rating. The research will show north of 70% of your 1 rep max is what's required to get higher strength. This is different than hypertrophy or tissue adaptation programming. Those are separated by a little bit. Pure strength training, you can appreciate that you will get a better neuromuscular recruitment of the body you have. Hypertrophy training and tissue adaptation training, you are trying to upgrade your body and increase your muscle mass to then support the next phase of strength training. Simply put, do you have enough mass to accomplish your goal? If you don't have enough mass, you maybe need to go through a hypertrophy tissue adaptation phase. If you have enough mass, you just need to learn to use what you got. Now, I will say this, a lot of people think they need to get a lot more mass. In reality, most of us don't actually contract what we have really well. So a lot of people would do well to work on strength training. But in reality, a lot of people have weak tendons. So when you work on hypertrophy and tissue adaptation training, you will fortify your tendons a lot better. But that distinction is what is the bulk of your work. So when I say 70% of your 1 rep max, you can otherwise interpret that as your 12 rep max. Say I could only do 16 kilo bell 12 times. That's 70% of my max effort. If I'm doing strength training, I need to be utilizing either a 16 kilo or above to attack good strength training. Now that would also mean that my reps and sets are probably less than 8 to 10 reps. I might do many sets of 5 to 8 reps in doing hard strength training. If I'm going to go with the hypertrophy or tissue adaptation model, then I'm going to be working lower on that spectrum. 50 to 80% of your 1RM is really where you kind of get the bulk of your, no pun intended, the bulk of your hypertrophy training. So what does that mean? Well, 50% of your 1 rep max, that can be as many as 20 reps. So a 20 rep max, maybe I might be able to do with a 12 kilo bell. I can do a 12 kilo 20 times. If that's my 50%, if I structure my training utilizing a 12 kilo and a 16 kilo, and that's the bulk of my belt of that work, well, one, my reps and sets need to be a lot higher. Maybe 8 to 12 reps, maybe even 15, 16 reps. You need to do a lot more reps to create tissue change, but you will get tendon strengthening, you will get hypertrophy training with that model. Now, in reality, a lot of us do a little bit of both. It's okay to hit 15, 60% of your 1RM, and every now and again, we might try 70, 75, and 80. So it's okay if it's a little bit of blending, or we can bias more on a lower rep scheme for higher level strength, or we can bias more on a lower intensity scale to hit more hypertrophy and tissue adaptation. But recognize the volume sensitivity will be a little bit different. If we're hitting lower weights for more muscle and more tendon on board, then we need to hit a higher volume to create the stress needed for adaptation. If that was a bit over your head, we have some reading to do. Or seek out a coach for them to program you. Next pearl, use progressive ladders and superset reprograms. Progressive ladders are simple. You do 1 rep, then another rep, 2 reps, then 2 reps, 3 reps, and 3 reps. And you can slowly build your volume by working on small rep schemes that climb and then climb down. You can climb up or you can pyramid up and pyramid down. And that helps your body get warmed up through the process and then see what type of rep schemes you can climb up to, whether it's 4 reps, 5 reps, 8 reps. You can have fun with different types of ladders to create. And that might be a nice way of you programming. Another programming pearl would be utilizing superset reprograms. A superset reprogram is simple. Say when I do swings, I do this. If I extend my spine with the swing, you could say, I think I need more anterior core stability on board. So how about I utilize a drill where that's the only focus? Then I might implement a plank, a single arm plank hold for 10 seconds on each side, and then go right to my single arm swing that utilizes that enhanced anterior core stability. Think of it as turning on the lights in your brain. You're lighting it up so that you use it more effectively with your primary lift. Superset reprograms are something that we do as clinicians all the time. Performance coaches do it all the time, and I recommend you do it with your own programming. Know your deficit and then superset a simple drill that helps light that area up in your brain so you use it more effectively with the primary lift. That goes back to understanding our bulletproof progression and our bulletproof tests. If you did the tests and you know your dysfunctions, then you know exactly where to superset to make sure that you lift safely. Okay, safe training. I love safe training. It allows you to be consistent because I hate injuries. I hate tendonitis. I hate spraining my tissue or pinching my nerve because frankly, I just push too hard too soon. If you make medium hard weight eventually feel easy, it is the safest way to get stronger. If ever I'm seeing someone lift and they break form and they're contorting their body, they are pushing way, way, way too hard. If they keep doing that, they will always find injury. Regardless of how young or old, they will find injury if you're contorting your body to achieve the lift. Always work within your body's ability of performing it technically sound. That means attacking medium hard, not insanely hard. When you do that, you get to train consistently for a long time. We get to have fun. Now, if you're a professional lifter and maybe you have your skill set is abundant and very, very high because of years of training, then it might give you the ability of training at 98%, 99%, 100% of your ability. But frankly, unless we're dedicating 4 to 6 hours every single day to this exact thing, we can put us into a little more of the hobbyist expert rather than my life depends on it. This is my absolute mission in life category. So if that's you and you are only dedicating an hour and a half a day, not 6 hours a day, then I recommend you always stay in the medium to medium hard category and make that feel easy before you upgrade again. Okay, last part. It has to do with really scheduling and training. Train your top priority first and foremost. Hit that the most frequent. If you have a hinge problem, hinge often. If you have a squat problem, squat often. I'll talk with a lot of people and they say, oh, I still haven't got my pull-up strength up. Oh, how often are you doing that? Oh, I'm only doing that once a week. Oh, that's just not enough stress to create change. So you got to train your top priority, numero uno, a few times a week. Then it's important to hit your other priorities with a little bit less frequency and a more variable manner. If squat's not your problem, then maybe one day you hit your double squat, another day you hit the single arm squat, the single arm front squat, and maybe another day you don't grab any weight at all and you only work pistol squats. Okay, you can have fun with the squat pattern if your squats are doing pretty good. I'm not saying you don't need to have fun with the lifts that aren't your problem. I'm just giving you an example of introduced variability is a nice way of making it fun and exciting without going off the deep end and training something that you're already good at, which is what people tend to do. Okay, the last thing I'll say about this is the common quote of Rome was not built in a day, but it can be burned in one. Be mindful of your training. If it's done safely, you can be consistent. If you go too hard, too fast, and try and achieve something that you're just frankly not ready for, then you will find injury and it'll slow you down, whether it be for a few weeks or even a few months. So be mindful of your technical proficiency as well as your programming to do this journey safely. Okay, on the regenerative side, everything we just talked about is stressing your body. Be mindful that to regenerate from that stress, you need a few things on board, and we'll name the big 3. Sleep 8 hours, not 7, not 6, not 7 1/4, not 6 3/4. Sleep 8. Get to 8. Maybe you're one of those body types that does really well with 7 and 7.5. Still get to 8. Why not? If this is that important to you, go to bed on time. Netflix does not help you get stronger. Go to bed on time, number 1. Number 2, breath and mindset. Your mental health, yeah, we gotta be mindful of it too. We're trying to make sure the whole world is healthy, but in this process, if you're not good up here and you're not good with your breath and cognitive and mental health support, then we're gonna have issues with training. Okay, so make sure your mindset, you're doing okay. Whether or not you need some meditation or some box breathing, make sure the stress part in your brain is doing well. The last part's your nutrition. Simply put, if you don't have nutrition on board, it's very hard for your body to adapt. Okay? You can't just build something from nothing. If you're going through a hypertrophy phase or a tissue building phase, You need those building blocks. Or else, where's your body going to get the tools it needs to repair itself? So we need the repair toolkit. That's our protein on board. We can't just make energy. We have to consume it. If we consume it from fat, it's very decent, very good, long-standing energy. If we get the energy from protein, that's shit energy and has to go through a few processes to make it feel good on our system. If we get it from the carbohydrate standpoint, then it can be fast and furious, or it can be more long-standing with the complex carbs. Nonetheless, when we get that kind of fuel, I look at it as high-octane fuel, just like I look at caffeine. Caffeine, creatine, still one of the top supplements for performance. Great carbohydrate sources are right up there. A solid banana or some healthy whole grains will do a body good if you use that energy. So in other words, if you're trying to go through ketosis to drop 10 pounds of mass, or you're doing your aggressive intermittent fasting because you saw that you're able to lose some weight with that process, as well as attack some elite level programming, something is going to fail. Okay, so you have to understand, what is your top priority? Are you losing fat and then getting stronger? Or are you getting stronger and then getting more conditioned to then do something crazy with your body, like pass this kettlebell certification? If that's your journey, then you picked your top priority. If you're in the weight loss category or the get fit and healthy and feel good about your body category, your priorities are different. So make sure your nutrition supports your top priority. Make sure you are ingesting enough protein, make sure you're ingesting enough water, making sure you're eating the rainbow and eating healthy sources of food, and making sure you have enough energy on board to accomplish your workouts safely. Your nutrient timing matters. What you eat and the quality of what you eat matters. Pay attention. You know what to do here. If you need more resources, go to the International Society of Sports Medicine to collect more data. That's where I got this data that you see in front of you. That concludes our Prep Course Phase 1 introduction video. Please read through the support material as well as through the support videos for the how-to on all of the techniques to do it safely. Develop your program, communicate with someone smarter than you to check your work, and learn through this process, because this process is not just about achieving elite performance in your own body, but also achieving an elite brain that supports this process. And if you get better up here through it, you'll be able to help others through their own journey, which takes an elite level understanding of dysfunction, of priorities, of training and programming, and most importantly, having a goal and saying it out loud and defining it and going after it and getting it. And supporting that process is what we do as influencers for health and fitness and sports medicine in the community. And I want you to be an ambassador as well and live with passion in that way. But achieve this journey for yourself, this phase 1, safely. And depending if it's a month or 6 months or a year of developing sound strength through your body, you'll be able to attack our next phase, our conditioning block, to help a successful pass for the Kettlebell Resilience certification in the very near future. So stay tuned for our second video on conditioning, and it allows you to program to pass the certification with flying colors and no injury and an insane upgrade in your body for elite peak performance in your own life. Good luck.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime.